What has changed is where do you start? Where do you start at? What has changed is
Georgia Republican Senate candidate Herschel Walker was on Fox News with Maria Bartiromo and gave one of the most rambling, ridiculous non-answers you've ever heard. Let me play this.
Raphael Warnock won this seat in that runoff race against Kelly Loeffler, as you know, back in 2022, early in the year. Now, this seat is one of the most contested, the top 10 lists of the most likely to flip in November. Tell us what changed in the last 14 months since Warnock won that seat.
What has changed is where do you start? Where do you start at? What has changed is, we've got an administration that they're not leaders. They're almost, they're waiting to, they're more reactive rather than proactive. And what I mean by that is, one of the first things they did, and I think people need to know this, is they decided that they were going to give up our energy. By him going out, giving up our energy, now we're not energy independent anymore, which started the whole downfall. Right now, gas prices is going out of the roof. Right now you see there's no food on the shelf. And I think people need to know that. And they're blaming everyone else except themselves. I think they got to remember that the song Michael Jackson said, "The man in the mirror." You got to look at yourself and see what's going on. This country is this is one of the most environmental drilling countries in the world, but yet we're walking on all the resources we have underneath our feet, and we won't say, hey, guys, we got to come out of this. We cannot continue to do this, and we need people in Washington that's going to be leaders and not people that's going to be followers or people that's upset, have sour grapes, that they're not going to do what's right for the people of Georgia. They're not going to do what's right for the people of the United States, where Herschel Walker will. I'm not afraid to get in there and fight for what I think is right. I'm a Christian. I told people I'm a warrior of God. I'm going to get in there and do the right thing.
I mean, this is exactly what happens when you did not study for the test. And there's an essay question. You got to fill a couple paragraphs, a couple phrases. Oh, energy independence. Throw that one out there. And voila, this is the answer. Incredible just how nothing that was. How do you run for Senate and not know how to criticize the person that you are supposed to be running against? So right now, this is still, he's running in the primary for the GOP, but he is leading, will likely become the nominee in Georgia for Republicans, will go up against Raphael Warnock. How do you not have at least a couple things to point out that Raphael Warnock did that you don't agree with, that you are against, and you have policies to support how you would do things differently? You don't have that? You're running for Senate in Georgia? You don't have that at the very least. It's incredible just how little you have to know to be a Republican nominee. And it doesn't matter. He's a celebrity. Republicans claim, oh, we can't stand celebrities. We don't want celebrities. Yet you have Trump. You had Reagan. Herschel Walker. They love celebrities, as long as they're conservative ones that are fighting for what they... Dr. Oz, another one running in Pennsylvania. Like, the hypocrisy, the stupidity knows no bounds. So I'm going to get to polling, by the way, later in this video. Here's my camera for this polling. Just looking for a reason to use that camera. But man, the polling is really... I'll get there. First, quickly, this appearance on Fox News gives you an indication as to why he doesn't want to make any appearances in a debate. So he was a no-show in the first major debate on Saturday. This is just against Republican candidates. Like the dumbest people imaginable, Republican politicians. You can't just debate them at the very least. But look, from a strategic point of view, he's doing the right thing. He has the Trump endorsement already. He's a well-known name. He doesn't need to get out there to get his name out there. There's no reason for him to really appear at these debates. It's not going to really benefit him. It's only going to hurt him if he says something stupid. Which he likely would. So he's avoiding these debates. Good strategy, but it shows you that he has no actual convictions, doesn't actually care about anything, has no real fight in him. It's all just a popularity contest for him. And on the one point he tried to make here, I'll try to, even though there's no point discussing this, has nothing really to do with Raphael Warnock at all. But let's briefly discuss this. Despite claims of Trump-era energy independence, the U.S. never stopped importing foreign oil. First of all, this phrase energy independence doesn't really mean anything, at least the way it's being used by Republicans. If this means anything, it means public ownership of fossil fuels. Does Herschel Walker support public ownership of fossil fuels? Not even Democrats support that. They should support that. They don't. Herschel Walker definitely does not support the socialist policy of public ownership of fossil fuels. That is why there is not energy independence. That's why private fossil fuel companies are selling their oil abroad, because they are private companies looking for profits. But if they're publicly owned, that would solve the problem. But of course, that is not a policy that Walker supports. But just on this point about the energy imports. So in 2020, Trump's last full year in office, the U.S. imported about 7.9 million barrels per day of crude oil and petroleum products. That was down from prior years. The U.S. imported more than 10 million barrels per day in 2016, President Barack Obama's last full year, but still a whole lot of foreign energy. So there was no energy independence. Even during the supposed energy independent time, Trump was importing millions of barrels per day. Also, on the point of what's happening now under Biden compared to Trump, America produced 11.185 million barrels of crude oil per day in 2021, compared with 11.283 million a year earlier under Trump. The amount produced in Biden's first year exceeds the average daily amount produced under Trump from 2017 to 2018, according to data from the U.S. Energy Information Administration. So not much of a change here either in terms of production of oil. So all this idea about, energy independence, all complete bullshit. On this, for years, Georgia GOP Senate candidate Herschel Walker claimed he graduated in the top 1% of his class at University of Georgia, but he never even graduated. Now, look, if you don't graduate from college, I don't think you need to have a college education to run for office. In fact, in some cases, it's probably a detriment because it can. That's not true either, but depending on who you are. Like if you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth, your education's paid for, you go to Harvard, like it can definitely disconnect you, I think, from the average person. But regardless, he lied about this for years. Imagine Raphael Warnock lied about graduating university for years in the top, let alone he lied about graduating, not even just graduating, but in the top 1% as well. So lie upon lie here. Imagine Raphael Warnock did this. The GOP would be all over this issue, would be in every ad attacking him. It shows you, first of all, what conservatives, how they really don't care about anything, but also that Democrats are weak and are not willing to hammer issues like this. I know this is not the most important thing, but stuff like this can sway voters if you focus on it enough. If you wrap it in the package of how much of a liar Walker is, it can at least sway some independents. It's not going to sway, the diehard Trumpers, but it can sway some independents. But if you're not going to focus on it, then, it becomes a non-issue. And he's also lied about his business record. So just quickly on this, Walker has made outsized claims about his business record in repeated media interviews. Walker claimed his company employed hundreds of people, including a chicken processing division in Arkansas, and grossed $70 million to $80 million annually in sales. However, when the company applied for a federal Paycheck Protection Program loan last year, it reported just 8 employees. It received about $182,000 in COVID-19 aid. So much like Trump, lies about his business record as well. And of course, Republican voters, the diehard ones, do not at all care. Also, on that point, a Texas bank sued Walker and another business partner over an unpaid $200,000 debt secured to help finance a pizza restaurant. According to court filings, Walker personally guaranteed the loan. So this report is from a year ago. But at that point, Walker had not yet filed his response to the suit. So more. Just lies upon lies upon lies. Now we get to the polling. This is where I go back to this camera. This poll, these polls, ridiculous. Walker actually in the lead in most polling right now. I don't even know what to say. Democrats, this is not just an issue with Republicans, though it is an issue, obviously. But it's an issue with the Democratic Party. You have to be willing to, and by the way, this could change, of course, as once Walker actually wins and there's actually more of a fight between the two. But as Democrats, you have to be willing to try and get out people that don't normally vote. That's how Democrats can win, not by swaying Trump voters, but by getting people out that don't normally vote. About 40% of people don't normally vote. Now, apart from issues with electoral or I was going to say reform, but gerrymandering, anti-voter legislation and all that, which also goes on, of course, in Georgia. But apart from that, there has to be this way to appeal to people that don't normally vote. And you do that by appealing to issues that actually affect people personally in their everyday lives. And that, of course, includes issues like healthcare and the need to expand healthcare and higher wages and how unfair the tax code is, but also human rights. LGBTQ issues, I think, are important. Now, to be fair, Georgia, I'm not all that familiar with the politics of Georgia specifically, so I'm sure there are very specific issues related to Georgia that they can focus on that can help them closer to the election here. But, there's this idea, separate from Georgia in this race, there's this idea that Democrats have, or that some people have, that Democrats should not fight for human rights of others, that will somehow be a detriment to fighting for economic issues. But you have to stand up for human rights. Like, if you're going to turn somebody off because they're anti-LGBTQ, then they're not going to vote for you anyways. They're going to vote for the conservative. But you may actually get people out to vote for you if you show that you're fighting for human rights of others. So, just on that part of the debate, I think it's a little ridiculous to try and separate these issues. These are all very important issues. You can focus on all of them, and they can all appeal to everyone. And if someone's turned off by you fighting for human rights, then screw them. And you likely would have lost that vote anyways. Last thing here. I'm not going to comment too much on this because I already did. I'll show you the link. But Herschel Walker also said the presence of apes calls into question the concept of evolution. If you want my comments on that, go check out my appearance on the watch list a few weeks ago. I'll link to that below the video. Just completely insane that this is the leading candidate right now in the Republican field in Georgia, will likely go up against Warnock, and will likely be a close race, even though one person is clearly more qualified, more intelligent, more capable than the other.